It was the kind of night that made even the streetlights seem tired. The rain hadn't let up for hours, thick sheets pouring down across the asphalt, pooling at the curb, and painting the quiet town in streaks of silver and shadow. The neon sign of the Riverside Inn flickered faintly, one letter already burned out. Inside, it was warm, still, peaceful, just the way James, the night manager, liked it. He didn't know that tonight, everything was about to change. Somewhere beyond that glass door, a man stepped out of a beat-up sedan. No limo, no entourage, just one lone figure, coat soaked through, cap pulled low, shoulders slumped like the weight of the world was pressing down on him. He didn't walk like a rock star. He walked like someone who was just tired. That man was Elvis Presley, but no one knew it. Not yet. And what would happen over the next few hours, between the front desk and a back hallway, between an act of kindness and a corporate backlash, would become one of the most unforgettable stories of quiet loyalty and stunning redemption. This isn't a story about fame, or music, or lights. It's a story about what happens when someone risks everything to do the right thing, and how the king of rock and roll repaid that courage in a way no one could have predicted. James had been working the front desk at the Riverside Inn for nearly 15 years. He wasn't flashy, didn't care for gossip, the kind of man who always had a thermos of coffee nearby, a crossword half finished, and a polite nod for anyone who walked in past midnight. That night, near 2 a.m., he looked up from his ledger just as the front door creaked open. The man who entered looked like he'd wrestled with the storm and lost. Water dripped from the brim of his cap. His jacket clung to his frame. Boots left muddy prints on the linoleum. He didn't speak at first, just stepped inside, out of the rain, and exhaled like he hadn't taken a real breath in days. James rose slowly. "Rough night?" he said, voice warm. The man nodded once. "Yeah, you could say that." James studied him. There was something odd, familiar even, in the way he carried himself, like he was used to being looked at, but tonight didn't want to be seen. "No reservation," the man added, "just hoping for a room." James hesitated. The hotel was technically full. A last-minute booking from a sports team had wiped out most of their inventory. But James had seen the desperation in that man's eyes before, not in celebrities, but in soldiers, nurses, tired folks just trying to get through another night with dignity. "We're full," he said gently, "but give me a minute." He disappeared down the hallway and returned with a key, one of the old metal ones. "It's not much. Staff quarters, clean bed, hot shower, no charge tonight." The man stared at him, stunned. "You don't even know who I am," he said. James just smiled. "Don't need to. You look like you needed a break. That's enough." And that's how James broke company policy. Not for profit, not for praise, but because someone needed help. What he didn't know then was that this man wasn't just someone. He was Elvis Presley, and the events that followed would test everything James believed in. James knew exactly what the policy was. No walk-ins, no exceptions, not during a full house, not even for returning guests. The corporate memos made it clear. Every decision had to go through protocol. But standing in front of that soaked man with tired eyes and slumped shoulders, James didn't see a policy violation. He saw a person in need. Still, his hand hovered over the keyboard. If he logged this room incorrectly, someone might catch it. If management found out, he could lose everything. His job, his pension, the health insurance his wife depended on. But compassion outweighed caution. "I've got a room," he said, voice quiet. "It's not listed for guests, but it's clean, private. Just needs someone who's had a rough night." He handed the man a spare towel, a wrapped sandwich from the staff fridge, and a steaming cup of coffee. "No ID required," James added with a wink. "I'll log it under maintenance room, night inspection." The man looked stunned. "You sure?" James nodded. "I trust my gut." Elvis took the key like he was accepting a lifeline. Not a word of thanks, just a look, deep, grateful, like someone who just remembered what kindness felt like. James didn't know who he was, not yet, but he did know he'd just taken a risk. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a quiet thought lingered. This might cost me everything. The next morning, the rain had cleared. James walked the hallway toward the staff quarters with a cup of coffee in one hand and a clipboard in the other. Just another routine check. But when he opened the door, the room was empty. The bed was perfectly made. Towels, folded with care. The tray of food, untouched, except for a single glass of water. now empty. Not a single crumb. No mess, no chaos, just silence. James took a cautious step inside, scanning the room. For a second, he wondered if the whole thing had been a dream, and then he saw it. A small note, neatly placed on the nightstand, folded once, no envelope, written in simple black ink. He picked it up and read, "Thank you, E." That was it. No last name, no return address, no complaint to management, no mess to clean up, no sign that someone in need had ever spent the night, just a letter and a lingering mystery. James stood there for a long moment, holding the note between his fingers. Something about it felt deeply personal, like a quiet thank you from someone used to being ignored. He smiled, almost in disbelief, and tucked the note into his pocket, like a secret worth protecting. Then, he went back to work, blending into the rhythm of the day. No one noticed anything different, but just a few hours later, everything changed. And James would soon learn that small acts of kindness don't always go unnoticed. Sometimes they echo louder than you ever imagined. A sleek black car pulled into the front lot. Out stepped a regional corporate manager, suit crisp, jaw tight. James was called into the back office. "Did you authorize someone to stay in the building last night?" they asked. James hesitated. "Yes. Emergency situation." They frowned. "That room was flagged. We reviewed security footage." James braced himself. Then, silence. A long, stunned silence. The manager stared at the screen, rewound it, watched again. On the grainy surveillance monitor, under the hood of a soaked jacket, someone was removing his cap, turning slightly toward the hallway light. The sideburns, the profile, the unmistakable face. It was Elvis Presley. "Wait, that was Elvis?" someone muttered behind the manager. The room fell quiet. James sat there, half shocked, half smiling, because for him, it wasn't about who the guest was. It was about who he needed to be in that moment. James thought he was doing the right thing, a simple act of compassion, offering a warm bed to someone who had none. But in a world ruled by policies, kindness doesn't always win. The next morning, James was called into the office. The tone was cold, corporate. A manager slid a paper across the desk. "Violation of guest policy, improper use of hotel property." No discussion, no chance to explain. Fired on the spot. James didn't argue. He didn't shout or cry. He just stared at the paper, his heart sinking. He packed his things in silence. His co-workers watched from a distance, stunned. Everyone knew what he did. Everyone knew why. But no one could stop it. Rules are rules, even when they're wrong. As James walked out of the building, he wasn't bitter. He didn't carry rage, just a quiet, heavy heartbreak. One more person swallowed up by a system that rewards efficiency, not empathy. The story should have made headlines. A good man punished for doing good, but it didn't. It got buried beneath 1,000 louder stories. Clickbait, scandals, noise. James became just another name, forgotten by the world, remembered only by those who saw what really happened. But someone else was about to find out, someone who wouldn't stay silent, and when he did, the silence would break. Exactly 1 week later, the hotel lobby buzzed with quiet anticipation. A sleek black limo pulled up to the entrance. Out stepped Elvis, dressed sharp, surrounded by security, cameras flashing like fireworks. He wasn't sneaking in this time. He wanted to be seen. He walked through the front doors like he owned the place, calm, unbothered. Every head turned. He went straight to the front desk. "Where's James?" The receptionist froze. The manager was called. He came out, nervous, adjusting his tie. James no longer works here, sir." "Why?" The manager hesitated. "He violated our guest policy, allowed unauthorized people into a guest room." Elvis didn't say a word, just stared. The silence was brutal. Then he nodded once, turned and walked out. No drama, no press statement, just quiet, intentional rage. But outside, the press caught it all. The look on his face, the weight of the moment. A billionaire who didn't say a single word, but said everything. Because when someone like Elvis walks into a place and asks why, the world starts asking too. And this time, it wouldn't be so easy to bury the truth. 2 days later, James sat alone in his small apartment, still trying to piece his life back together, when his phone rang. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. A calm, southern voice came through. "You helped me when no one else would. Now it's my turn." It was Elvis. He didn't just thank James. He invited him to Graceland, not for a photo, not for dinner, for something bigger. A job offer. head of hospitality at the brand new luxury hotel Elvis was opening. "You treated me like a person," Elvis said. "Now I want you to lead a place that treats everyone that way." Justice, at last. The camera fades in on a gleaming hotel lobby. At the entrance, in a tailored suit, stands James, confident, proud, transformed. Guests walk in, and he welcomes them with the same warmth he once offered a stranger. Above him, etched in gold on the wall, is the hotel's first rule: kindness comes before policy. Later that evening, during the grand opening, Elvis shares a quote from his mother. "Son, it's never wrong to do the right thing." And just like that, what began as a quiet act of compassion became a legacy, a reminder that rules don't make us human, kindness does. If this story moved you, don't let it stop here. Too often, people like James get punished for doing the right thing, and their stories vanish without a trace. But you can help change that. Share this video, comment below with "Kindness comes before policy" if you believe compassion should never cost someone their job. Have you ever been in a situation where doing the right thing came at a cost? Tell us your story in the comments. We read every single one. And if you believe the world needs more stories like this, stories where kindness gets rewarded, where justice finds its way back, and where compassion wins, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We're building a community that believes in empathy, second chances, and standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, because sometimes all it takes is one voice, one share, one story to remind people that doing good is never wrong. Thank you for watching. And remember, kindness isn't weakness. It's the strongest thing you can choose.